Hey, we're talking athlete development today, especially as it pertains to Coach Vermeil's pyramid of athlete development. Okay, so Coach Vermeil, he's a legendary coach, strength conditioning coach with the Chicago Bulls and in numerous professional organizations, basically built his model in a pyramid. You're going to see this in a lot of different areas too, but you're going to see how different elements of this pyramid stack on top of one another to result in the end product. And I want to make a big note too is we don't train these in isolation as we go up. We're always working on these skills throughout an athlete's career. We just may have a little bit more focus depending on the time of year or the time in a career on these different elements. Okay, let's start off. First one, we'll call it GPP, General Physical Preparation. It could be a work capacity. It could be called work capacity, okay? But the main priority of this area right here is just general fitness, okay? Working on just general capacities. That's where the name work capacity comes from, okay? Working on mobility, flexibility. Okay, so this period of time right here may exist at the beginning of a training block, following a period of time where I'm away from training for some time. It could occur with younger athletes or developmental athletes where I'm really just trying to develop a wide foundation so I can stack higher order skills or athletic competencies on top. This oftentimes exists with work that is not really specific to any sport. It's just good training, okay? You can implement low-level progressions during this time of more advanced lifts. Oftentimes there's not a lot of weight, not a huge emphasis on speed, but rather an emphasis on technique and making sure that I'm dialed in, making sure I can move through the movement pattern correctly. A big emphasis on conditioning here, keeping in mind if I'm working with younger athletes that I don't want to crush them at any point during this. I'm just developing general physical qualities so that later on they have a great foundation. Okay, the next step up is going to be strength. Let's put it out. Okay, so strength is basically the ability to produce force without really the regard for speed. I always want to be putting force in the ground and trying to move a bar if I was in the weight room or an object, if I'm pushing, let's say, a sled with maximum intent. But when I'm in a strength block, I'm not truly focused on just velocity at this point. I'm really just trying to focus on moving the external resistance. Okay, so at this point in time too, you can go a lot of different directions depending on your athlete, depending on your goals. You could be focusing on more maximal strength where it's heavier weight, lower volume, or a little bit more repetitive effort strength. Okay, and there's a lot of different things that we can read about pertaining to those different areas. And there's tons of different types of strength, such as yielding strength, other areas that I'm working to overcome the inertia of an object or a weight or something sitting still. Okay, so we can go a lot of different directions with this, but basically strength comes after a general physical preparation block. So I basically develop fitness in this area, and then I move up the ladder and I'm going to focus on strength. And like I said, however we can program and build and combine our things together, provided they're complementary of one another, we can be training multiple things at the same time. Okay, let's take another step up. Let's go to power. Power is really neat, and we're getting a little bit closer to what you may see on the field, because basically that is overcoming resistance, moving an external object or myself with regard for speed. And within power, there's two different elements to this. And you're going to see that there's strength involved in this. Okay, so we have strength, speed, and we have speed, strength. An example of an exercise or movement that may be focusing on strength, speed would be your Olympic lifts. Maybe different types of sled toes. Could even be heavier types of plyometrics that I'm not fully moving at a very rapid pace. So the main quality here is I'm training strength in the condition of speed. okay? The next one is the exact opposite. I'm training speed in the condition of strength. So examples there would be light med ball throws, body weight plyometrics while moving. Could be different types of jumps, even with a barbell. But the key thing here is I'm focusing on speed while having a small external resistance. This right here typically is really complementary if we train power and strength together. We can also kind of strand these throughout a season where we're kind of going back and forth. During this period of time here, in strength, I should say, and in power, and then what's coming next, we can actually use some of our velocity-based training where I can really dial in meters per second how fast the barbell is going. So I know exactly which block I'm actually training. Okay? Next one is speed. Okay, so speed is basically moving rapidly with minimal to no resistance. And understanding that there are means of training speed while having resistance, but the main thing when we're training speed is to move at a very fast rate in a direction. There's also two different types of speed when we think about training. There's acceleration, and then there's top end, and we do need to train both of these areas. Okay, so acceleration, right here, acceleration may be start to, let's say, 10 yards. It could be going straight, it could be a lateral start, it could be a reaction to a ball and moving. But that acceleration is basically overcoming the inertia of me standing still, whether I'm in the blocks or whether I'm waiting for a volleyball coming at me or a ground ball coming my way. I have to have the ability to accelerate from zero. That's where we can work on different elements lower down the pyramid to help us complement this. So if I have a poor acceleration or a poor get off the line, that's probably maybe an area I can work on with a combination of strength and power, where I'm overcoming a resistance or overcoming standing still. Okay? Top end speed. After I've accelerated, I'm downfield, maybe I'm free from an opponent, and maybe I'm running down the track and I've stood almost completely up and I'm in full cycle. This top end speed is one of the most precious athletic qualities that you can obtain. There are very few things that can emulate the demands on the body, especially from an eccentric perspective on the posterior chain, than is top end speed. Okay, so when we train top end speed, that may be open field running, that may be working on a build up, reaching top maximal speed and trying to hold it for a period of time. But it is extremely precious, and we have to find ways to reach that consistently throughout a career, and then to continue to dig into it for preventative and injury prevention standpoints. Okay, and then the last one is sport skill. Okay, and sport skill is pretty much the technical and tactical elements that comprise my sport. If I think about putting that on the top and working all these different areas with the main focus of once I get in season or during a competition period to maximize my sport skill, I'm going to be in a really good position. Now, a couple things I want to think about too is as I'm going up this pyramid, there's going to be different impacts on my central nervous system and my metabolic pathways that fuel the movement. Okay, so we'll talk about this next in the next video, but basically what I want to do as I'm programming a period of time is to really take into consideration what kind of impact the movements that I choose within this has on my central nervous system and then my metabolic pathways, because that's going to really guide the recovery that I need before I train again. If there is a movement, let's say power, speed, or maximal strength exercises, and they have a massive impact on my central nervous system, I may need 48 to 72 hours to be fully primed up to be able to repeat that effort. Doesn't mean I can't train the next day, it just means that it has to be complementary. Okay? If I'm at the bottom block and I'm working GPP and I have a massive conditioning day and I'm working on different types of work capacity and fitness and I use a lot of calories, within a different energy system, I need to make sure that I refuel. And that's where nutrition, sleep, and everything comes in. I should also say sleep comes into this CNS recovery as well. But in a nutshell, Coach Vermeil's pyramid, it's a great way to conceptualize how we think about programming, thinking about how we bucket different exercises and focus areas within training into an organized manner and stack on top of one another. Is it the only way to think about it? Absolutely not. But it is certainly one way to keep everything organized and move forward throughout an off season and in season, and maybe more importantly, throughout an athlete's career. Hope you're doing well. Talk soon.